Town Board Workshop, Thursday, July 6th. Please rise and salute the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Emergency exits are to my right, near the town clerk, and also the door you came in. Roll, please.
I haven't heard from Councilman Delango. Has anybody? So Councilman Delango noted as absent. Councilman Morris?
Here.
Councilman Gutierrez?
Here.
Councilwoman Doyle? Here. And Supervisor Perotti?
Here. Public comment? No public comment? Okay. Supervisors report. On June 20th and 29th, the Town Board held special meetings to interview candidates for the newly formed Zoning Review Committee. On June 29th, all the candidates who applied were appointed to the Zoning Review Committee, and they are Terry Metcalf, Andy Durbridge, Nina Peak, Leo Blackman, Walter Brett, Larissa Delango, Anthony Robustelli, Gennaro Di Simone, Peter Conti, and Joseph Fontaine. Town Board liaisons will be Vicki Doyle and Jim Morris. The committee will meet on July 10th to choose a chairman and secretary. Also on June 29th, the Town Board accepted with regret the resignation of Denise Fitzpatrick, our town attorney, effective July 31st, 2017. Denise will be moving out of the area, so will no longer be able to serve as our town attorney. We have advertised in the newspaper, and we need to have responses by July 20th, and we will conduct interviews. The Summertime Festival is July 7th, 8th, and 9th at Cascade Mountain Winery. Local wine, food, and music festival. There will be fireworks Friday night. For more information, go to www.cascade, it would be CASCADEMT.com. The Pancake Breakfast fundraiser at the Indian Rock Schoolhouse will be on Sunday, January 16th from 8 to 11.
July.
Oh, I'm sorry, July 16th from 8 to 11. Sorry about that. I want to make sure people go. That's usually pretty good. Breakfast and bake sale, pancake breakfast and bake sale on Sunday, July 23rd, will be held by the Wassaic Auxiliary at the Wassaic Firehouse from 8 to 11. And building report. Please find June's monthly report for the building department. Building permits, we have issued 14 new building permits totaling $6,613.40, along with 3 renewals of $559.20 and 1 fireworks permit of $75. We're continuing with certificate of occupancy searches, and for this month we did 5 searches totaling $500, along with 2 fire inspections of $100, bringing the total for the month $7,847.60. Committee reports.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to see everyone here again. I do a little hello here. I'm Michelle Summergy, and I'm with the Town of Amenia Recreation Commission. And, excuse me, sorry. There's no lip here. I just wanted to let you know a few things for seniors that are happening. One of the things is the senior center that we've been having here in the town hall will be closed for July and August. There's so many senior activities and so many seniors are going to so many different events that we figured it's best to close it than try to accommodate 1 or 2 people who might be able to make it. It will reopen in September. Okay? The next thing of importance, the senior picnic is going to be on Saturday, July 29th It's at noon at the Wassaic Fire Company. We're going to have a memorial table, music, door prizes, a catered menu. Seating is limited. Please contact me if you wish to get on the list. We don't turn anybody away, so don't fear.
You want to tell them your telephone number?
Oh, my telephone number is 877-9430. All right? I already have people signing up and calling me and leaving messages, so it's going to be a successful thing. Another thing, the Lake George trip is completely full. We have 50 people going on the bus. It's going to be great. The bus, I want to let people know who are getting on the Lake George bus trip. The bus will depart Tally Ho at 7 a.m. and will depart the town of Amenia by the town hall at 7:30 a.m. And our estimated return is about 7 o'clock in the evening. We'll get on the boat, have a nice meal. When we get off around 2 o'clock, there'll be about an hour to go around into the town of Lake George, and then we will leave Lake George at 4 o'clock. The bus is completely filled, okay? The Lobster Fest for August 16th, that's a Tuesday. The deadline is July 14th. It's $55 per person, and it's a $2 cash tip. Please put your tips, please give me your tips in cash. You can give it to me when you get on the bus or however. I cannot extract money from your checks if you put the money in the check. It's just a bookkeeping thing. I'm just telling you, it's a bookkeeping thing. That's the best I can explain it. And if you just give it to me in cash, because I have to do it that way, because we don't want to pay the bus company, because it's different. It's a different thing if we have to pay the bus company, okay? There's a new one that's coming out. You might have seen it on the TV. It's for the Clove Creek Dinner Theater, which is located down in East Fishkill, where Charlie Brown's restaurant is and the outlet shops are. That one is a tentative date for the Saturday after Thanksgiving. It's going to be a murder mystery, and it's called Six, S-I-X. I did not make a typo. S-I-X in the city. And it's a murder mystery. And we'll be able to go early, so you'll be able to do a little Christmas shopping in the little plaza there, and then you can go and you can have a nice dinner and a show, and then come home. And sounds like it's going to be a really good time. The Renegades game has been canceled. We just did not get enough people interested in the Renegades game. And since the town was going to pay for that bus separate, it was not a senior trip, but it was a trip for people in the town, and the town was going to pay the money for the bus to go. It's best that we have to cancel it, because we just can't run a bus for 10 people. It just isn't feasible. But perhaps if you're in the community and you're a senior or not a senior, and you think there might be a good town trip that people in the town would like to go to, perhaps next year is the 2018, just let me know. Let us know, and we'll look into something that you might enjoy. That maybe you don't want to go to the Renegades game. Maybe you want to go to Radio City. Maybe you want to go, I don't know, someplace else, wherever it might be. But no casinos. I'm just going to tell you that right now.
Don't do casinos.
Okay. A little information on the trips. Please write the checks to the town of Amenia, not to me, but to the town of Amenia. Mail them to me. If you're unable to make a trip, you've already paid, and you call me up and you say, "Oh, Michelle, we've already paid, the deadline's passed, and I won't be able to make the trip." If I have someone on the waiting list, I will fill that seat, and I will let you know, because you called me. and that person will reimburse you. We will get your reimbursement to you, okay? But it has to be the person who's giving up the seat must call me, all right? And please don't say to your friend Sally or Larry or whatever, I'm not going, take my ticket. You can, but let me know you said to your friend, I'm giving him or her my ticket. So I know, because I have to put the names of the people who are going on the trip into the town clerk's office, because we have to know who's on these buses, just in case we have to contact someone. I know it's an awful lot of information, but I just want to clear up all of that stuff there. And basically, that's everything that I have. And next week, we're supposed to have a rec meeting, and I hope that we will come up with some really good plans for next season for not just the seniors, but for everyone in the town. And I thank you all very kindly for your attention. And that's it. And we'll see you on the bus 14th, those of you who are going. And we'll have a great time. That's why I wore my hat. You see my Lake George hat. Let you know we're going to be on the boat. Okay. Thank you so much again.
Okay, town clerk report.
Real quick, Michelle, if you guys are going to have a meeting next week, no one contacted me, and currently this room was reserved for a special ZBA meeting.
Oh, okay.
So if when you guys come, just meet down in the auditorium.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
If
If you're here first, just tell the gang to go down there. And
I know you're not supposed to assume, because we know what that makes of you and me, right? But I haven't heard any different.
Okay, so I'll pass that message along to Chris, because
Okay.
it got moved.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Thanks. I just wanted to report to the town board that the minutes of June 15th and the two special meetings that were announced by Supervisor Prodi, the June 20th and June 29th minutes, were previously circulated to the board. The monthly share has been submitted to the town supervisor in the amount of $274. And last televised meeting, the June 15th, I reported what the total taxes were, but I don't believe I gave to the public the late fees and penalties amount. I don't believe I read it aloud, and that amount was $7,607.72. It's just for recording purposes, I announced that. And as Supervisor Prodi also announced, the July 10th meeting of the newly created Zoning Review Committee, Sue has been working with the supervisor in getting them their zoning review books. I do have members that I called that had specifically asked for the comprehensive plan, so I know Sue has a couple copies up there. So if anybody that's looking for one, they can obtain one from the town clerk's office. And Sue's been so gracious to be the one that's going to hand out all the necessary paperwork and returning the copies of the ethics to the town clerk's office. Their emails have all been set up, and once they have their first meeting and they provide that schedule to the town clerk's office, that will then be posted on the door on the website, and we'll get the public up to date on when their meeting dates are, because we don't know if they're going to stay on Mondays or not. Was the board ready to make acceptance of the minutes? Okay. Where's Peter?
Yes, aye.
Oh, okay, so I just need somebody to make that motion. I can't make my own motion.
I'll make the motion.
And someone like to second that?
Second. This is for June 15th or for all?
I just made it as a general for all three of them.
Well, for June
Do you want to
15th,
separate them out?
well, just put them as part of the minutes, what dates
It's going to
we're
be
doing.
June 15th, June 20th, and June 29th.
Okay.
Those are the three dates.
That
Councilman
was my
Morris?
motion, yeah.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilman?
Wow.
No. Oh. No, I'm looking at Damien. Councilman Gutierrez? You
Yes,
said yes.
I
That's
know.
the worst part. Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
And Supervisor Prodi?
Yes.
Thank you. And then that'll conclude my report for this evening.
I apologize, I do have a report for CAC. Realize we didn't report on that last meeting, which was June 21st, 2017, here at Town Hall. We talked about Kent Hollow, Trail to the Train, and the possibility of applying to be a climate-smart community, which was recommended by our 10 Mile River Watershed Roundtable. About Kent Hollow, we just went over the status of the studies that have been done on responding to the Kent Hollow mining application on South Amenia Road, and they did discover, the herpetologist found a timber rattlesnake den that's active about 700 feet away from the proposed mine, so they will have to do, they issued a report recommending further studies about how to minimize the impact to that. It's not endangered, it's a threatened species. They also did a visual analysis by George Janes. That's been submitted. An engineering response has been submitted by John Andrews, a historical report by Arlene Giuliano. The CAC gave its own report. And there was, I believe that's it, engineering, historical, visual. We also talked about the trail to the train, and we had discussed the issue of notice of incomplete application is still outstanding on the permit for DEC. That's on the website. The permit was applied for in May 2012, and it was supposed to be done in November 2012, but we're about 5 years behind. Hoping that they're submitting it after the holidays.
They already have. I forwarded it to you. You might not have had a chance to check your email.
That would be great.
Yeah, he
And,
sent the, they sent comments back.
the DEC or the,
No, he, to
WSB
Scott,
cells.
WSB Cells sent them to Scott Ballard.
and they,
And that's in your email.
okay, that sounds good. The group did not recommend using cells for a resident on-site engineer for the next phase, but at the time, we didn't know that we'd already signed a contract agreeing for that group to be part of that. So, and then we talked about climate-smart communities, and Dover is way ahead on that project, but we looked at the project application. It's 30 pages, and the CAC felt it was too ambitious for that group to take that on at this time. It's an admirable goal, but we did think that maybe on our own we could just talk about find out when we're going to actually open the landfill. And the other question that came up was, would it be possible to allow solar panels on the landfill, the old Amenia landfill, now the Thomas Young Park?
Yeah, we're working on correcting the easement. We have to resubmit the easement to the county.
Okay. And then Dave Reagan, the CAC chair, on his own, helped a Wassaic artist named Calvin use his model of South Amenia area to help him create a video, which was studying the impact of landscape to a community and the impact specifically of mining and quarries to communities. And he's studied this all over, I guess, the U.S., and he thought, he studied Amenia as well, and he said that Holbach's approach to mining is the best he's seen of all mines. It was just an interesting observation, but he has created a video, and our CAC chair supported him in those efforts. That's all we had. Thank you.
Are there any other committee reports? Okay, we sent out RFQs for water in order for engineering studies for our water. We got responses from 5 companies. So at this point, we need to set up a time to actually interview them. So if somebody could give us some dates and times that we might be able to do that. And then Dawn can check with the companies to see when they're available.
How much time per company you suppose we'll need?
Do you have the questions? You said something about Mike having,
Right, I think 20 minutes would be plenty. No, for each company.
I have the 13th and the 27th, the 2nd and 4th, although maybe that's when the planning board meets in this room. I don't know. Is
they're
this
on
room-
Wednesdays.
They're on Wednesdays. So, if it's Thursdays or,
Which date were you looking at?
well, the 13th and the 27th, the other, so that we would be meeting every Thursday in July.
So, okay, Is
It'd
that-
be simpler to remember for me.
All right,
would that work?
yeah.
Okay. Now, how early do you want to start?
I can go after work at 5:30.
The earlier the better.
Okay,
For me.
5 is fine. I
5?
can make it happen.
Sure,
Can you do that?
I can do 5 o'clock.
It's a little tough to get back from work. that early.
5:30?
So this would be the 13th and the 27th? Do you suppose we could, because I could,
Oh, I'm flexible. I have a lot of open.
Well, there's 5 of them, so we could possibly just get them, maybe start a little later and then still get them all done. There's only 5.
Mondays are pretty booked for me for some reason.
So will the 13th or the 27th work for you?
the 13th is better.
13th? Okay.
Do you want me to attempt for the 13th for all 5, starting at 5:30, and give each a half hour? And then if you don't use the half hour, you can
Okay.
discuss the candidate at that time. Okay. So Thursday the 13th
5:30?
at 5:30.
Okay, and just so everyone knows, the 5 companies are LaBerge Group, KC Engineering, Morris Associates, Chazen Companies, and Tyne and Bond.
By the way, I don't know anybody at Morris Associates.
What? Oh, no. Never heard of them. Okay, we've been talking about the shared services for municipal innovation that the governor has required the county and the towns to do. So, Damien, you worked on the website one. I mean, what we can do in the paperwork that is sent into the county, which Damien did a nice job of researching the website information, is to just send them in, and then, when we can actually look at it again before we actually sign a contract with the county, but they will, go through and do a summary of the cost savings and give that information back to us. So the ones that Highway was working on, that he actually did the paperwork, Stan actually did the paperwork and sent in, was a salt purchasing cooperative for with the county purchasing salt, because last year they purchased salt from the county. It was $75 a ton, and the state bid was $89. The other thing that Stan worked on was the highway equipment rental. If we need for a project like an extra dump truck or a different type excavator, we would be able to rent that on the county bid, the company. So those are the 2. The other one we talked about, and I think we've also talked about it, is using the mechanic at Weebatuck School. But I sent that to our insurance carrier, and there was a question of what the liability would be if we supplied the materials and they did the work, and if there was something faulty. So based on the reticence of our insurance carrier, we decided we're not going to pursue that one. The other one that Damien actually worked on was website development and maintenance via the county. If the county did our website, not only would we have our information on it, but any of the county information would also be on there. So people would have more information about what was going on in the county, including any county weather alerts or anything like that. The other, we're already in the workers' compensation pool, so what the county is going, as a shared service with the county, we've been in it since, I believe, 2013, so the county is just going to put a contract together so that we can formalize what we already have there. The other thing, I worked with Sean Howard and looking at how much we pay for clay for infield grass and doing the fields, doing the chalk all the time and putting permanent synthetic marking. So actually the supervisor from Pleasant Valley took all the information from all the towns, and he's sending a spreadsheet into the county. So we're just going to see if there's any cost savings long-term for having the permanent markings on the field and not have to buy the clay, and also they have like a spray they use to outline the field, and we have 3 fields. And when I checked, I mean, we actually purchase 25 to 30 tons of it a year. So we can see how that's going to work out for us. The other county initiative that Stan did, and I did too, was county procurement specialists. So this would be using the county if we had RFP and had to put bid documents together, they would do it instead of us having to pay an engineer. I checked to see what we paid Morris Associates for the sidewalk project, including the survey plans and specification for bid specs, was $7,500. And for when we did the heating project, to prepare the plans, specification for bidding, and the whole bidding process was $38,000.
And the county's not going to charge us anything for those?
Well, they are, but it's not going to be as much as an engineer. So it would be a lot less, but like I said, we'll be getting the information back from the county. They're going to put all the numbers together, give us a proposal, and we can say yay or nay, whether or not. But I, believe not using the engineer, there would be some cost savings, but we'll have to wait and see what it is. So those were the ones that I thought were the most cost savings to the town, and the ones that we're involved with the county.
Would those, a portion of those at least satisfy our requirements for the tax cap?
They all would. Oh, not the tax cap. This whole project is something that the governor wanted, and it was passed by the legislature. And if the town doesn't participate in it, and take some of these, and use some of these for cost savings, because what he wanted to do was reduce property tax. He reduced property taxes by, keeping the taxes down. Mm-hmm. If the town did not participate, we would lose our state aid, which is $37,000.
Okay.
So that's why we're participating in it.
Before we get off of this taxes, property taxes, does anybody know whether or not the STAR refunds ever came back for this town? Because I don't remember ever getting my STAR rebate. Remember how it used to come off of your taxes, your property taxes, you wouldn't get charged for it. Then Cuomo decided to go ahead and take the whole amount due and then kick back a check for your STAR refund, make it a refund rather than something that was taken directly off of your bill due. Does anybody know what the status of that is? Just out of curiosity.
Well,
They changed the mechanism so that it wouldn't be the delayed payback.
All right. Anyway, I will look into it a little bit more
Yeah,
and
there's-
see if
I-
I'm able
yeah, I
to
think if you
answer
checked-
that.
with the assessor, there is a number that you can call to check.
Okay, very good. I read about it in the paper and never found out what the result was.
They were sending IOUs.
No, I don't think so.
They were. It was disclosed
No,
at our
there's
tax.
something crazy going
They received a
on.
letter, and there was the
That you were
very
owed.
large delay. The class that I went to in June, and I reported it to you guys in July of last year, because all of us, our jaws dropped, because how are we supposed to tell people
Are you talking
that
in
you
the
no
microphone?
longer get your tax star rebate, and that affects those that are making new purchases? So it wasn't affecting everybody, it was those that were making new purchases and having changes in their,
Well, that's because,
switching it over. Yes.
oh, because that's because they weren't getting a check.
Yes, so it wasn't affecting.
But everybody else was. Yeah, got very confusing,
I think it was
so-
people that are buying their home for the first time.
For the first-time
Yeah.
buyers, or if you're having a change. So if you were to give it over to your kids, that technically affected a change in the office, because it was like new ownership.
Right.
And that's why it affected a lot of individuals we happen to have had it here, and the daughter came in, she was very upset, didn't understand why the taxes had such a drastic change. And when we looked into it, Dad they had already transferred it over. So all changes were affecting. And I actually have a sample copy of the IOU letter, because we couldn't believe it, and it was part of our class.
Okay, thank
I
you.
know there was a big delay. Okay, we have discussion, Jake break discussion. I think we gave you some of the emails. Should be in your packet that we received.
Victoria, just quickly on the shared services, do we need a motion to submit those spreadsheets for anything, or we can just submit since they're non-committal?
We can just submit them, we're just getting information together and sending it to them,
Okay.
and then they'll let us know. Because it isn't final until, we actually have the contract.
Victoria, can you give me some background on Jake Break?
You should have some emails there that we received from residents on Jake Briggs.
In
the packet?
Yeah, the 5-minute version is, we had a number of complaints, a number of people appeared before the town board complaining that as large trucks came down 22,
Okay.
they were using their Jake brakes to slow down, and they're very noisy, and basically to using engine braking for a diesel truck. I believe, actually that's what this letter here is. Victoria had reached out because 22 is a state road. And do you want to summarize what they told you then?
Yeah, basically what they told me is that we could do a resolution and to get a sign regarding the Jake breaks as they're coming into town. But I don't know if you want to, do the resolution or follow up with this. I know we've had complaints from at least 3 different people.
I can say it also is not a complaint just limited to Route 22, South Amenia Road, with mining trucks and commercial trucks that travel that route. Also have complained about the use of those. However, we've required in the new zoning that that newly, any mines going forward have to follow the no Jake break. They have to outfit their trucks with a quieter version.
So I didn't know if you wanted to proceed with the resolution or,
I think it doesn't hurt.
and see if we can get some signs put up wherever you think.
Just, Mike's not here, but I'll channel him for a moment. I know because he's brought up the fact that we don't have a way to enforce that ourselves. Is that, if signs do go up on the state road or any of the county or town roads, is that something then the county sheriffs could enforce?
Well, that's the difficulty in it, is who's going to enforce it, and if they are going to. The only way they'd hear it is if they parked out there and gave tickets, so. I just didn't know how you wanted to proceed with that.
Well, I guess it depends on the, how much would it cost for us to post signs all over town for regulation that we are not able to force.
Well, the signs, the state would do the
The
signs.
state would do the signs?
Yeah, it's on the state, but we have to, like, when we did the resolution to have the signs put by the Immaculate Conception Cemetery for no overnight parking, it's the same procedure.
Okay.
So if you want to think about it or read about it, or we don't have to make a decision tonight. But if we are going to do something, we have to do a resolution to have signs put up, and we'd have to designate where we wanted the signs on the state road. But most of the people who are complaining is coming into town from,
Well, that's a high-density residential area they're pulling into and using their Jake break, but we have also had that same complaint in South Amenia. Now, I haven't heard it since we've had our new zoning in 2007. I honestly haven't heard that complaint, but I don't know why we would just limit it to Route 22. And I also think that there's a policeman that sits right across the street from my house. They're enforcing the speed limit. They're enforcing, I think they would enforce it.
well, we won't know unless we do something.
Yeah.
Well, we have had plenty of, comment. We should,
Yeah.
I think, at least try to do something.
Okay, so we'll have a resolution for the next meeting.
Sounds good.
Okay, under other matters, resolution number
20?
20?
Yes.
Okay, this resolution is to establish a local law and a public hearing to put up the appointed assessor on the ballot in November. Since our assessor isn't running for another term, and as far as I know, nobody else has come forward to run for the seat. Introducing proposed local law number 1 of 2017, entitled "A Local Law Providing for the Appointment of a Sole Appointed Assessor Pursuant to Article 3 of the Real Property Tax Law," to schedule a public hearing on said local law and to authorize publication of notice of said public hearing. The meeting of the Town Board of the Town of Amenia, held at the Amenia Town Hall on the 6th day of July 2017 at 7 p.m. Town Supervisor Victoria Perotti called the meeting to order. And I have a motion
I'll make the motion.
and a second.
I'll second.
Introduce the following local law to be known as proposed local law number 1 of 2017, entitled "A Local Law Providing for the Appointment of a Sole Appointed Assessor Pursuant to Article 3 of the Real Property Tax Law. Now therefore be it enacted by the Town Board of the Town of Amenia as follows. Section 1, Statement of Purpose and Intent. The purpose of this local law is to provide for the appointment of a sole appointed assessor in the Town of Amenia pursuant to Section 328 of Article 3 of the Real Property Tax Law of the State of New York, and to abolish the elective office of sole assessor. Section 2, Amendment of Town Code. Chapter 4 of the Town Code of the Town of Amenia, entitled Assessors, shall be amended as specifically set forth in the local law annexed hereto as Attachment A. Section 3, Supersession. Pursuant to New York State Municipal Home Rule Law, the provisions of this law are intended to supersede any inconsistent provisions of state or local law. Section 4, Operative and Effective Dates. The local law shall only become effective if approved by a majority of the qualified voters of the Town of Amenia, voting at the general election to be held on November 7, 2017, and if so approved, shall be operative as of November 7, 2017, and effective immediately upon filing with the New York Secretary of State. Pursuant to the municipal home rule law of the state of New York, it is necessary to hold a public hearing on this local law. I offer the following, Vicki, you,
I offered the following.
and Jim seconded, who moved its adoption. Whereas on July 6, 2017, the town board introduced this proposed local law for the town of Amenia to be known as Town of Amenia Proposed Local Law Number 1 of 2017, entitled "A Local Law Providing for the Appointment of a Sole Appointive Assessor Pursuant to Article 3 of the Real Property Tax Law." Now therefore be it resolved that a public hearing be held in relation to said proposed law as set forth in the form of notice hereinafter provided, at which hearing parties in interest and citizens shall have an opportunity to be heard, to be held at the Town Hall on August 3rd, 2017, at 7:00 p.m., and that notice of said hearing shall be published in the official newspaper of general circulation in the town of Amenia by the town clerk at least 5 days before such hearing, that such notice shall be in the following form. Notice of public hearing. Take notice that the town board of the town of Amenia will hold a public hearing at the Town Hall, 4988 Route 22, Amenia, New York, on August 3rd, 2017, at 7:00 p.m. on proposed local law number 1 of 2017, entitled "A Local Law Providing for the Appointment of a Sole Appointed Assessor Pursuant to Article 3 of the Real Property Tax Law." Take further notice that copies of the aforesaid proposed local law will be available for examination at the Town of Amenia Town Hall, 4988 Route 22, Amenia, New York, during normal business hours on all business days between the date of this notice and the date of the public hearing. Take further notice that all persons interested in citizens shall have an opportunity to be heard on said proposal at the time and place. The foregoing resolution was voted on with all councilmen, women, and councilmen voting as follows.
Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Delango is absent. Councilman Gutierrez?
Yes.
Councilman Morris?
Yes.
Is there any other public comment?
I actually just wanted to summarize what we just read through. So,
Okay.
is that all right, Sharon? Or
No, go ahead.
I'm only waiting till you're finished.
okay. So there will be a public hearing to discuss whether or not we put on the ballot in November whether to change the assessor's position in this town from someone that's elected to someone that is appointed. And there's various pros and cons to both sides. In general, I'm in favor of putting these kinds of decisions out on the ballot and letting the public weigh in and decide. I think it would be helpful for August 3rd that we have some legal or legal counsel here. So if we don't have a new town board lawyer by then maybe someone from Dave's.
Okay, we'll have someone here.
Someone just to answer questions around, the difference, because do you want to describe how the appointed assessor works and how the sort of state regulations around that and the terms?
Well, the terms are 6-year. They're currently the appointed assessor term. They're in the middle of the set 6-year term. The appointed assessor is someone that already has to have the assessor education, or at least the basic, in order to be appointed. Appointed assessor has to be approved by the State Office of Real Property. One of the advantages of appointed assessor is that you can share assessors with another town, 2 appointed assessors. So Beekman and Dover Plain share a assessor. So this way, we would be able to advertise for an assessor and, an interview for it, but they would have to have the basic education.
And so I guess the short is, instead of directly electing that person who holds that assessor's office, you are electing a board who then interviews multiple candidates that all have the state level certification that's the minimum requirement for that position, and then an appointment is made for the term. So by all means, come down on the 3rd of August. That's when it is, right? Yeah. And if you have strong feelings either way, then come and show them.
Hey,
Are
Sharon?
you ready for public comment now?
Sorry, Sharon.
Okay, I have 2 comments in regard to the water company's issue. Right? One is that you're evidently dealing with at least 5 private management options, but I would suggest that along the way you consider a public option, which would be the county itself, and do your cost benefit, because you might find that in the long run it's cheaper to have the county run that.
Excuse me, Sharon, I don't think you're understanding what the RFQs were for. Where basically these companies are just going to do an engineering study of our existing water system in order for us to get grants to fix some of the infrastructure.
So it's for repairs, you're saying?
Yes, it is.
And so a public option wouldn't be useful to compare as well as the private options for that study? Because they've got a civil servant on staff that could do a study on that type of thing. Anyway, it's just a suggestion. You don't have to answer it now. I'm just
Okay.
putting it forward.
But I just wanted to make sure you understood what we were doing.
So Sharon, to that point though, I think it is worth reaching out. I went to a conference a couple months back that was run by Syracuse University, and there is a group inside of that does offer similar services for municipalities. They don't do it all for free. They do a certain, sort of baseline or preliminary study for little or no cost, and then you can retain them to continue it in more detail. But at minimum, I can reach out to them and just provide that information to the board,
Sure.
so that we have, an alternate option to compare what we hear from the respondents. And,
My second point in regard to that process is that although I don't know all the members of the current advisory board for that, the water system, I do know that you have some competent people on there who are somewhat knowledgeable with engineering background and all the rest. I would suggest that you allow them to sit with you as part of the group that does the interviewing, just a due process suggestion. And as regards the other issue of the local law, where you're referring to the public to vote, I just want to say that it's terribly important that you think of this in its context. I can remember back some years when we were deciding, there are 3 models. One model is the early rural model where you have 3 elected assessors and they consult and they work these things out together. And that was displaced in most towns. Some of them still have it, by the 1 elected, which we went to having a vote of the public. And now you're going to the possible model of hiring a technical person to do this. I think it is far more complex than it looks, and I'm glad you're having the hearing on August 3rd, and I hope the public will take advantage of it. I hope you will have the cameras here so that the hearing, if it's well attended and people have opinions, at least it will be picked up.
It's a regular board meeting, so it'll be televised. We're having the public hearing before the regular board meeting.
Well, and you could include it or not, and I'm suggesting you include it.
Well, it will be televised anyway. It's part of the board meeting.
I'm not sure I understand you.
We're having a town board meeting that night. The first thing we will do after I open the meeting is to have the public hearing. So our town board meetings are televised anyway, so the public hearing as part of the town board meeting will be televised as well as the rest of the town board meeting.
Thank you.
I would just like to mention to people also to keep in mind that with the elected one, you have to use somebody, you have to elect somebody who's a town of Amenia resident. So we have 4,000 residents. The pool is, what it is. If you go to the appointed, then you're not, you go by qualifications, and you don't have to have somebody living here in the community. And like others have said, it's a highly technical, more and more complicated for people to make accurate assessments, and they need to be able to represent the town's assessed values, not only set the values, but defend them in court. And it's worth a lot of money to you, even if you're not the property that's in the process of being challenged. Your taxes will be affected by these other entities who challenge their assessed value and either get it or don't get it based on merit. And your piece of the pie of the town's costs and this Weebtuck School will be apportioned to you thereafter. So you will be affected. You need, I would suggest, the best possible assessor you can get your hands on to represent the town as fairly as possible and to make sure everybody is getting the fairest deal, and it's been done with technical precision, with understanding of how these values are arrived at, because it's not at all a small financial issue for the town to be involved in. We need to get the best person we can possibly find.
I have a procedural question. If we are putting that to vote next election day, is the assessor position up?
Yes.
So don't we have to have that
Filled.
on the ballot, right?
Yes. I mean, the current assessor filled an unexpired term after our assessor passed away. The next full term begins in January for 6 years. So by
Right.
having it on the ballot, and if, to date, no one is running for the office, at least we'll have a way of having an assessor for our town.
But if somebody does run and they win, regardless of the outcome of the vote, to change that position from an elected
Which is
position.
what happened last time, because Wayne ran for the office and he won, so then it stayed elected.
Okay.
And besides, the appointed assessor didn't have the votes to pass anyway, so.
Okay, so maybe worth asking the lawyer that if the public does decide that it's in the general best interest to have that position be appointed, perhaps if someone then is elected, we address that in the resolution, saying, that person will serve, because it's unlikely, even if it passes in November, that we're going to find someone and hire them immediately. So maybe there's, it's not such a bad thing if there is somebody, but if that term is changed to be a year or something. I don't know what the answer is.
The
but
term
it's-
can't change.
It can't, oh, that's right.
No,
it's
the
the
term
state.
is set by the Office of Real Property at the state level.
I have a legal opinion on this.
Not from me, you won't.
I sent you an email with a lot of information about the appointed assessor.
Yeah, that
And
was
if,
super
and
helpful.
if you have any questions, you could always call the county. I can give you his number. If you have any questions, he could answer them for you.
Okay, that'd be great. I mean, what you sent around was very helpful. Our particular situation come November is a little weird because, we're putting that on the ballot, but we have an open position that somebody can run for at the same time. So, I don't know,
Nobody is at the moment, but 4 days we'll see what happens by next week. Is there any other town board comment? I'd like to make a motion to go into short executive session for contract negotiations and seeking advice from legal counsel.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?